Hey everybody, I hope everyone's doing well. There's been a lot of funny things happening lately, and yeah, there's been a lot of funny things happening lately, and I wanted to talk about it, plus also bring up the petition that I've made again. I made it what about 6 months ago or something. And at the time, it no one was really talking all that much about the CIA. So, but now it's like they've been coming back up again a lot because of all these, in light of all these, declassified documents and whatnot, showing more and more and more, the point I was trying to make in my petition, kind of like, proving it right more and more and more. So I decided to come back up while it was, still somewhat trending and bring up this petition once again. Hopefully, maybe we can get some more signatures. Now the actual title of like the actual call to action on this petition. It's calling for the Department of Defense to, yes, defund the CIA, but not just that, but to also dismantle it totally. That's what the call to action is in this petition, just to clarify. And that makes a lot of people hesitant because a lot of people that I know of have told me, well, why defund it and dismantle it? Like, why not just, fix it, or, I don't know, like a whole bunch of other stuff. Because in their mind, a lot of people think that we actually need the CIA, that we actually need it. And I just wanted to remind everybody the actual foundations of the CIA. It's not as like honorable or noble as like maybe you would think the FBI or any other branch of the military is. Of course, I don't know much about the beginnings of the FBI. I don't know. Maybe they weren't honorable either. But the CIA was all like rooted and founded on deception from the very beginning. It was about deceiving the American public. Now, they like to use that, excuse back then that they needed it because of the Cold War and the Russians this, the Russians that. They say it was really needed. But before World War I, we didn't have anything like the CIA. Or the OSS, which is where the CIA came from. The OSS, which was the original CIA, came about during World War II because it was needed. It was a time of a world war. Not the CIA. That came after. I'm talking about the OSS. That was like literally like the first like blueprint of the CIA. Before the CIA came, its mother was the OSS, which was active during World War II. The reason being was because, and it was a good reason too. There was a very good reason for it. It's because the president at the time, I believe it was Roosevelt, like with Pearl Harbor and everything, like he didn't find out what was going to happen with Pearl Harbor until it was like either way too late or it was already happening. And the reason being was because there was like 3 agencies at that time basically competing over intel. Like there was 3 agencies at the time who were supposed to be reporting to the president about like what the true situation was in the world. It was like the FBI, the Army, I think, or the Navy, and another organization. It was like 3 of them. And it was like they were basically like holding back information from the president and stuff. They were playing those little games, like, of who was the most powerful, who had the most intelligence. And it was hurting everybody. It was hurting what the president knew, what he could do. So until it was pretty much too late and Pearl Harbor happened. Now that's a little bit. You can look at the links on the petition. It'll back all that up. It'll back all that up because I linked a lot of sources to this petition. So then the president was like, okay, forget this. This is ridiculous. So he came up with the OSS, right? And they were going to be like the main source of intelligence for the president and all this other stuff, right? So that way he wouldn't be misinformed anymore. And he could actually make appropriate decisions. You know, informed decisions, which are very important in wartime. Informed decisions. But then you fast forward, okay, after World War II, when it's over, like almost immediately after all this tension between the United States and Russia happens, even though we were allies during World War II and we were buddies and friends, even before the war was over, we were friends with them by all appearances, but like we even still during the war didn't fully trust Russia. Right? It wasn't until after World War II where the whole like tension with the communists and this and that starts to happen, where like our government starts literally following people for having a different political opinion. It was like all of a sudden after World War II we weren't the United States anymore and we were only allowed to have one opinion. It was very strange, and it was the CIA basically. Like they thought that they needed the CIA even after the war, after all that, you know, to fight Russian disinformation was like all that. They love to use that excuse. But there was really a lot more to it, because when you look at, like, when you look back at the declassified documents, I mean, in my opinion, at least from what I've read, it seems more it was about getting the United States to hate Russia than it really was about, like, knowing what Russia was up to. Unless, you know, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure that was part of it too. But, like, there was definitely a lot of resources devoted to what the United States thinks. Even though the CIA wasn't supposed to do that, right? It wasn't supposed to do that. That's what the FBI was, like, for. Like, the CIA, it was supposed to be very much about, like, foreign intelligence. But, like I said, they weren't totally honest about what they were doing. In fact, come to find out, like, pretty much since the CIA was established, they had already been and continued to do mind control experiments. They were even, like, kidnapping, like, Canadian citizens and doing this. Not just their own citizens, but also Canadian citizens. And who knows who else? They probably had test subjects from all over the world that we don't know about. If they were willing to do it in Canada, why wouldn't they be willing to do it anywhere else, like in Mexico or something? You know what I mean? And they weren't just doing this to adults either. They were taking children. Experimenting on children. Very vulnerable children, I might add. Children who had, like, mental health issues already. Who were already, like, suffering. They did some horrible stuff. And let's keep in mind, and this is the main reason I made this petition, right? Because many, like, after the MK Ultra and all that was exposed, and they pretended like it was over. They pretended like they were never going to do anything like that again. You know, they're really masters at deception. They really are. But yeah, they pretended like it was all over, and that, you know, the victims would be, you know, compensated for everything. All this stuff, a bunch of lies that never happened, because many victims did sue the federal government for their actions, for their crimes against humanity, for being made into actual guinea pigs. And many of these victims, like one of the victims in particular, oh crap, I can't remember his name, but I've done a ton of videos about this guy. He actually worked for the Army or the Air Force. He was a military guy. And, like, they picked him and, like, just fed him LSD against his will. And then he sued just, like, less than 20 years ago. He sued for what happened to him back in the 50s. And he had receipts, evidence. The agent that was being questioned actually came out and admitted like 3 different times what happened to that guy. And he still was never compensated for it. Never. The courts were basically, you know what they said? They said because he was part of the military, that excluded him from ever getting kind of any compensation, because whatever he suffered in the line of duty was considered something he signed up for. Like, yeah, that was like their whole reason. And he was just one guy. There were so many other victims who sued. Victims from Canada. And they used that excuse where it was like, well, people from Canada can't, get compensation from us because they're not our citizens. Like every victim, it didn't matter where they came from. It didn't matter if they were American. It didn't matter who they were. There was always a reason not to compensate them. For the officers or the CIA agents who partook in these tortures to not face accountability. In fact, they know about these guys. They know what they've done. They have receipts about what they've done, what they authorized to do, what they were using our tax-paying money to do. Like Sidney Gottlieb and Ira Feldman. That was his name, Ira Feldman. They know what they've done, and they never faced charges. Never had to pay out any money from lawsuits. Never had to do any of that. They went on to live their best lives. They went on to write a bunch of books and go travel the world and never faced any accountability for anything they've done. Never. And my whole thing is, well, they've already admitted to doing this before. So why aren't they paying out these lawsuits? Why are they refusing when they could afford it? It wouldn't be, the people like fighting in these courts are acting like it would actually come out of their pocket or something. Like, it's crazy. Just pay what you owe them. What you put them through against their will. But they wouldn't. And I kept thinking, it's like, well, why wouldn't they do that? Like, unless maybe it never did stop. That was honestly the only reason I could come up with, because I looked into it, and I'm sure there might be other reasons. But the reason I personally came up with, that I can't think of any way around it, is that it's still going on. And by making these guys face accountability, well, then they would have to make a lot of others face accountability. You see what I'm saying? It's so they could carry on and still do this stuff. And because, let me backtrack. They never actually said that they would stop doing it. They said they wouldn't do it without people's permission anymore. Like, that was really the condition. Like, not that they would necessarily stop this mind control stuff, but that they needed the test subjects' consent. And they didn't even follow that rule. Because after that, let's not forget that even after all of that, in the 90s, come to find out, the CIA has been testing unwilling participants with, radiation poisoning. Subjecting them to horrible, horrendous experiments against their will, again, because Bill Clinton himself had to come out and condemn them for it. Now, I don't know if any of them ever faced accountability. Probably not. But, don't quote me on that, because the radiation testing is something I haven't gone into yet. And the reason why I'm going to start really pushing this petition from now on is I want to show you guys something. I want to show you why. First of all, let me say, I am not a YouTuber that is known really at all. I'm a very, very small content creator. I don't get a lot of views, and I'm okay with that. I'm not doing this for all the views. I'm doing this, I've already told you guys why I'm doing this. Because I see what I feel is right and wrong, and I feel compelled to come out here and give my opinion, because I wish everybody would do exactly what I'm doing, because I think a lot of things would change if we all did this. But besides all that, like I said, I'm not that big or known. However, though, when I go and I watch other people's content, other content creators, I leave comments. I become very opinionated lately. I find it very hard to keep my mouth shut about things anymore. But I never really got that much resistance. Every once in a while I'll get a little snotty comment here or there. Whatever. Probably bots at the end of the day. But I've noticed, especially within the last couple weeks, I tend to always get some kind of reaction whenever I leave the comment, where are the missing 400,000 migrant children? That seems to be the question that really gets the most trolls, the most bots, the most backlash out of any comment I've ever made. And in my opinion, I've made some pretty nasty comments. Well, not nasty necessarily, but like polarized comments, if you will. And I just find it odd, of all the comments I leave, you would think that would be the one that most people could agree on, right? No matter what side of the aisle you're on. Because I know not a lot of people may not know this about me, but I don't really associate with Republican or Democrat, because there's bits and pieces on both sides I can take and leave. I kind of feel, then this is just my opinion, I kind of feel like that anybody who's 100% one side or the other side can't do it without being a hypocrite in some way, because both sides can be a bit hypocritical. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. I'm allowed to it. But when I leave polarizing comments that have to do with politics, I usually barely ever get anything. Because like I said, I'm not like that. I'm not going to be the first one that comes up in the algorithm. However, lately I've been getting lots of backlash about this one comment I've been leaving. And I wanted to show you guys because it really stinks. It smells like CIA. And I know a lot of people are going to call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't care. I know what I know, and I feel what I feel. And I don't feel like that these are normal citizens with these kinds of responses to this comment. I mean, look at the comment. Look. Where are the 400,000 still missing migrant children? You know, I mean, why would that piss anybody off? Why would that piss anybody off? And listen, I leave this comment under all the journalist YouTube channels, like Fox, CNN, Nancy Grace, ABC. Like, I leave this comment under all those platforms. I leave other comments under those platforms, but like, especially this comment. Well, lately, in the last couple of weeks, like I said, this has really been ticking the robots off. Here, let me show you. Now, from that comment I just showed you. Now, the first 3 replies, you know, like I said, they're the people who can see what I'm saying. Like, yeah, hell yeah, find these missing kids. Also, the kids from Haiti, you know, let's find them. That Bush and, you know, like, yes, it's beautiful. Look at the last 2 comments. Look at the last 2 comments. Like, let's look at the first one. From SDC1949. Yeah, that sounds like a robot, but maybe not. It says, don't deflect. Are you also trying to protect 4547? It took me a little while to figure out what 4547 meant, because when I saw it, I'm like, huh? What? But then it hit me. I'm like, oh, they mean Donald Trump, because the 45th president, the 47th president. I assume that's what 47 meant. And I don't know what Donald Trump had to do with that comment, the 400,000 missing migrant children. So that's what made me think that's a bot, because it's like, what? Are you kidding me? You're going to automatically associate the 400,000 missing migrant children with protecting Donald Trump? And like, not even the video I was commenting on had anything to do with Donald Trump. I don't think. Actually, I don't know. I didn't watch the whole video. So, you know, I don't know. I just commented under Nancy Grace because she loves to talk about missing kids all the time. But I have yet to see her talk about them. Let me know if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe she has talked about it and I missed it. But anyways, let's look at the other comment from Rose Petals. Although I do care about all children, I have to ask, what about the hundreds of thousands of America's missing children? Just saying. Now, I have a lot of comments on that, because she must not read all the statistics properly. Because what she's referring to is, yeah, if you go on our website, you will see that on average in the United States, around 400,000 children go missing just in the United States. That's true. But if you finish reading it, you know what it says? That 99% of those kids are always found safely. 99%. So let's just do the math for a minute. If 99% of those kids, of the ones that go missing in the United States, are found, then that means the true number of the real, actual missing children in the United States is somewhere around about 4,000. It's still a huge number. And yeah, by all means, we need to be talking about them too. We need to be talking about all the missing kids. Like, I don't understand what you mean. It's like, what? That would be like me coming out here. Like, I'm just trying to use an example. And let's say I was talking about, like, wounded veterans. And there's, like, I had, like, 3 wounded veterans, like, on stage with me or something. And I was talking about their trauma and pain. That would be like rose petals jumping out and being like, what about the other injured veterans? What about the other ones? Well, yeah, they matter too, but right now I'm talking about these. We'll get to those. We need to get to all of them. But do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, fine. Let's add that number to the number I'm talking about. Let's add it, okay? Then we've got 404,000 at least missing children in the United States. Okay, I'll change the number from now on if that makes you happy. Including our kids plus the migrant children. Okay? Well, then let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, rose petals. Like, don't come here and troll me for talking about it. What if you do care about all children, then you talk about it. Instead, your reaction should be, okay, well, if she's going to talk about them, I'm going to talk about these 4,000 because I feel like they need to be talked about too. And I would agree with you, Rose Petals. They do. So go ahead and talk about it. And I promise you, you're not going to see me, if you do talk about it, which I doubt, I could be wrong, you are never going to see me jump under your video and comment, what about the 400,000 migrant missing children, Rose Petals? You're not going to see me do that. I'm going to be like, thank you. Thank you. Because these children need to be paid attention to as well. That's what I'd say. Because I do care about all children. You know what's really bothering me? Is that you're going to take the time to sit there and troll me for talking about it, when if you do actually care about all children, you should take that energy and take it to Nancy Grace, take it to Fox News, take it to CNN, take it to whoever you want to. Instead of taking it to someone who is talking about it. Like, what the hell? Am I crazy? Am I crazy? No, I'm not crazy. And there was quite a few more comments that I'm not going to show you. But there was another comment, because it was from the Fox News, where it was the same comment. But usually every time I add this comment, I add an extra word here or two, or I get taken down for spamming. So under the Fox News comment, I said, where are the 400,000 still missing migrant children? Fox News. And I did it the same to CNN, except I said CNN. But of course on Fox News, because they got their own robots, they left a comment saying, why don't you take that energy? Why don't you go watch CNN? Because they'll tell you what you want to hear. Like they were sitting there defending Fox News under that comment. Which I think is despicable. You're going to sit there and troll me defending a news corporation. I don't know. Whatever. You know what? I love trolls. Usually I do. Because I do. I think they're valuable. They show you what you're getting wrong, what you're saying wrong, what you should focus on. So I'm actually truly grateful for trolls. This just irks me because I feel like these are the counterproductive trolls. The bots. Like I feel like the human beings the trolls, usually honestly may not like what they got to say, and it may be a little hurtful, but it usually actually offers you something a little valuable. I'm just saying, that's just my opinion. But, like, the ones that are, like, machines, I mean, like, I don't know. There's just no value in them. And I feel like YouTube should do better. I do. I mean, this is, like, my first really run-in with actual, like, robot machines. Which, I know, these got to be machines. They've got to be machines. Thanks to the CIA. Because I don't know who else would pay for bots to go after people talking about missing kids. I really don't. Who else would pay for that other than the CIA? Anyway. So, are we all sick of the rot in our society yet? Because I will always have a few people who are always going to focus on the wrong things, who, you know, whatever. We're always going to have those people. But you see, the CIA's job is to make us all believe that this is how everybody feels. It's an actual mindset, and I find myself falling victim to it sometimes. You see something on the news, and just because you see all the journalists and stuff saying the same thing, automatically our mind gets it where that's how the whole world feels. When that's not true. That's the whole trick. That's why they make these journalists say these things the way they say it, to trick us, to make us think that this is how the whole world feels. But it's not. In fact, most of us are very smart and intelligent. Yes, most of us are. Just because you can have 100 bots saying all this stuff doesn't mean that that's people saying all that stuff. You know what I mean? I have hope for humanity. And I have hope that if we get rid of these nasty players who have single-handedly done more harm to humanity than anyone we've ever seen on TV. We need to get rid of this rot behind the scenes. The ones pulling the strings, the ones taking advantage of people, the ones blackmailing people. Because yes, I do believe the CIA was most likely, in my opinion, allegedly, using Jeffrey Epstein to get this blackmail on everybody. Them, plus Israel, plus few others. You know, with his kind of morals, I doubt Jeffrey Epstein was loyal to one country. I'm just saying. He was probably intelligent for many people. I want to end this video by showing you guys some faces and names. And some of them you do recognize. Some of them you don't, though. Some of them don't look that familiar. But they are all equally responsible for what's been happening the last at least 5 years. Most likely longer. We all know who she is. We all know who she is. Ghislaine and her daddy. And everything they've done to harm people. Hillary. Remember her crazy ass face. Joe Biden. How could we forget him? Sleepy Joe. Oh yeah. No need to even say his name. We all know who this is. James Comey. James Comey. Remember his face. Remember his name. He is a liar. He is a plant. He has single-handedly done so much harm. Said so many lies. He is the notorious guy who just put that, what was it? Crap, 47, 60, I don't know. That whole pose that was calling to assassinate a sitting president. James Comey, the father of Maureen Comey. John Brennan. Remember his evil ass face. This is John Brennan. Clapper. James Clapper. Remember his face. And his name. Alexander Acosta. The one who gave Epstein the infamous sweetheart deal. All the way back in the early 2000s. The one who keeps telling us that he was told Epstein belonged to Intel. And the previous two guys, Clapper and Brennan, both belonged to Intel and did a lot to sweep this all under the rug. Maureen Comey. James Comey's daughter, Maureen, recently was just fired from her position with no reason given. And, far be it for me to speculate why she was fired. I don't know, because I was not there. So I don't know why she was fired. But it's interesting because she was involved in every one of these important investigations from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell all the way to now to P. Diddy and all that shit show at the court where she refused to bring in important witnesses to testify against him. I would also like to point out, I think it's quite comical, kind of funny, how Agnifilo, you remember all these months, her and Agnifilo, they really did a good job, putting on a show for everybody, fighting it out, her taking it personally, her disgust, his disgust, it was all beautifully. Well, you know what he had to say when she was fired? He defended her. He defended her. Yeah. He even speculated on why she may have been fired. Because he said, I don't know, it's a shame. It's a shame she would have been, fired for something that had nothing to do with her. I was really good friends with her dad. Agnifilo, that's one of your, weaknesses. But in this moment, it was a gift for the rest of us. You and your big mouth. Thanks for letting us know. How far do you go back with her daddy? How good friends are you? Just things to think about. I mean, let's not be naive here. Let's not be naive here and think that father and daughter are so separate. Because these two aren't. I guarantee you. They go to the same college, get the same degree, same office. She's fresh out of college, freshly got her degree, and she becomes a prosecutor for the Southern District of New York, where her dad used to work. You all think that's a coincidence? You think that her dad had nothing to do with that? Yeah, okay. Sure, Jan. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure everyone knew her name, but I'm going to say it anyway. Nancy Pelosi. Don't forget her, how much she has enriched herself from her elected duties. Was she elected? I don't even know. I don't really know, but I know that she's made more money than every other investor in the country the last few years. And she worked with Congress. She was the Speaker of the House. So how did she make all that? Well, she says that was all her husband. That had nothing to do with her. Same difference. Okay, Merrick Garland. Remember him? He was the Attorney General the 4 years Biden was in office. Okay? He had, poor Pam Bondi, who's getting thrashed out here for all this stuff. Well, this guy had 4 years to give us all what we wanted to know. 4 years. 4 years. Okay? Never did. Didn't utter a peep about it. God, he looks like Fauci. I bet they're related. Oh my God, yeah, Merrick Garland. Speaking of Merrick Garland, this is how you know he works with the CIA. This is how you know he works with the CIA, aka Hollywood. Y'all remember, it's going to take everyone a few minutes because we're all just finding out how deep this goes now. But do you remember back when Trump did actually win the election back in 2016? Okay? American Horror Story wasted no time working it into the script. Y'all remember that? That was CIA. Ryan Murphy, we're side-eyeing you, buddy. We are side-eyeing you. But yes, the whole season with Cult. Oh my God, the first 5 minutes in the episode. She's like, oh my God. Because yeah, keep in mind, the whole plot of that season was when Trump wins the election, how devastating it is to everyone in the country. It's so devastating. They're all in their living rooms mourning. They're mourning and weeping right after Trump won. They're weeping. Weeping. And the first thing she says, she's like, what about Merrick Garland? Ah. Do you all remember that? They are telling you. They are telling you. I wonder how much Merrick Garland had to pay to get his name put in that season. Because that, come on. Anyways, I'm going to move on. But yes, go watch that. If you don't watch, you don't have to watch the whole season. It's in the very first episode, in the first 5 minutes. She's there at the TV crying. Oh my God, poor Merrick Garland. What's going to become of him? Well, he's just fine. He's just fine. Also not facing any consequences. What's funny is, why was she so worried about him? Why'd they even bring... Like, it was almost like they were trying to push that on everybody to feel so sorry for poor little meek Merrick Garland. Anywho. Oh, and also in the first 5 minutes, this is all in the first 5 minutes of the first episode of this season in American Horror Story. It's all in the first 5 minutes. This is all happening. She's grieving for poor old Merrick Garland. And then there's another couple in the background, and they're all distraught. And the wife, she's on her phone. She comes in, so what happened? What happened? And then the husband was like, well, Trump won. He won, and it's all your fault because you were too busy on Etsy to go vote. This was all happening in the first 5 minutes of this episode. And then the same husband, he's like, oh, and we can thank all the people who want to do protest votes against Hillary for, what was the name? Jill Stein? I think it was Jill Stein. That lady, she, one of those people who, runs, that nobody knows who they are, who ends up getting some votes because they just don't want to vote for the other two candidates. Whoever that was. So they work all of this in the first 5 minutes of the first episode of season 7 in American Horror Story. They worked it all. And it was brilliant. They basically explained why Trump won. And it wasn't because people voted for him. It was basically because people either didn't go vote or because they did a protest vote for Jill Stein when they should have voted for Hillary. That was all in the first few minutes. It was beautiful. And at the time when I watched it, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like everybody else. I was probably even agreed with it a little. I'm like, that's funny. Oh, but God, it's looking back, and hindsight's always 20/20. It was so clever for the CIA to do that. It was clever for them to do that. God. I'm going to give a round of applause. Good job. Good job. I can't imagine how many people that worked on. So it makes you wonder, what other TV shows and stuff and all this other stuff. If y'all really want to know which studios and whatnot work for the CIA, go back to that time period. Here's one. I'm showing you one of them. Ryan Murphy in the whole American Horror Story, at least this particular season, was all CIA propaganda. Anyways, keep that in mind. And it really kind of makes me sad. I somewhat like that season. I mean, because it was mainly because of the acting. The acting was just so phenomenal in that season. You know what I mean? It just makes me sad that, I don't know. Anyways, moving on. Sometimes art is an art, Okay. Kamala Harris. Remember her? Okay, yeah. No need to bring up her name. Adam Schiff. Now, he's the name that hasn't been brought up a lot quite yet. But it will. His name will come up in all of this. Because he was the main congressman. Is he a congressman or a senator? I don't remember. But anyways, he was the main one, accusing, Russia and Trump colluding. He's, always been behind all of these CIA schemes. He's been behind them all. He's a big one. And he's, really convincing. Because he really, goes out of his way to sound so convincing. And so himself convinced and convicted. That it really makes people think, gosh, well, he really believes what he's saying. So he's very good at manipulating, very crucial asset of the CIA. Another crucial asset of the CIA, this guy right here, Dr. Fauci, the one who forced all those biochemical weapons against all of us and our children. Wouldn't even let us like travel anywhere without it, without getting injected. Pretty much the mark of the beast, in my opinion. It's unfortunate too. I was one of the ones who absolutely refused to get that vaccine. I knew, and I didn't even think it was like a bioweapon necessarily, as much as I thought it was just a control tactic. I honestly didn't think that. I probably thought the vaccine was harmless, but I refused to get it because it was just the point. I lost a job for it. But at the end of the day, I ended up having to get it because they got me like they got a lot of people. I had to travel. I had no choice. I had to get it. Knowing I probably shouldn't have gotten it. But I had to. I had no choice. I think a lot of us were got that way. You know what I mean? It was like you refuse them up for so long, and then next thing you know, you're in this desperate situation where you weigh the odds and if it's worth it. And like sometimes you just have no choice. So my heart goes out for everyone that happened to. I was one of those people, and that wasn't an easy choice to make, but it was necessary. And even knowing what I know now, that it was a bioweapon, looking back, I still would have made the same choice because I had no choice. I still would have made the same choice because I had no choice. So, F you, Fauci. F you. You may have been pardoned for now, but karma's a bitch. You don't get a pardon from the universe. You don't get pardons from them. I don't care what magic spells you've pulled. You will pay for what you've done to people. For what you've done to everybody. Okay. This guy. Antony Blinken. Another deep state character. Remember his face and his name. And listen, other than those guys that I just showed you, there are so many more. There are so many more. I mean, the list just goes on and on from these deep state characters. And the ones we even thought, we're trying to fight the deep state. They're the special ones, okay? They're the especially evil ones, William Burr, William Barr, whatever his name was. You know, the one who was claiming to, be against the vaccine. Or, he was claiming to... He was a liar. He was another deep state plant. You know what I mean? You got to be careful for those. And there's a lot of those, too. Where they'll actually act like the good guy, like the hero, but they're put there for a reason. And you'll see the signs for it. Because you'll see, other deep state, people, not necessarily, defending them, but they don't get thrashed as much as you'll see, you'll know. But with all that said, we need to get rid of all this. The time has come. The time has come. They are in a weak, vulnerable state right now, and we need to kick them while they're down, not wait for them to gather strength, manipulate more people, unleash another pandemic. Because that's probably what they're working on. COVID worked so well for them. It killed so many birds with one stone for them. It decreased the population. It got everyone scared. Got everyone that vaccine. So, God knows what they're planning now. So, we need to act. Please. I beg of you. I give you all permission. I give you permission. Take this petition. Talk about it. I don't want any credit for it. You all don't even know my real name. I don't want no credit for any of this. I just want this done. I want a better world, okay? Please help me with this petition. If you guys know of another petition that has more signatures, that's asking for the same thing, please point me in that direction. We need to get this done. It doesn't matter who does it, how it's done. We just need to get this done. Are you all desperate yet? Are you going to wait till they come for your child to sign when it's too late? Please, think about it. Please, I beg you. I beg you. Take this petition. Sign it. Share it. Most importantly, share it. If you don't want to sign it, you're too scared to, but you still want to do something to help, just share it with as many people as you can. Please. Please. The more people that signs it, the safer we all are who signs it. There's 20 signatures on there right now. That's 20 people who put themselves out there to sign this. Guarantee. Listen, I am not suicidal. I promise you that. So if someone comes on and says this albatross, no, I am not suicidal. So we get that straight. And I never will be. I've been through some of the worst stuff some people can go through. And I will never, ever, ever, ever do that. So we got that straight. Cool. Sign this petition. Share it. Protect the other people who signed it by signing it and sharing it. Please, they cannot get us all. We need to get rid of them, and we have that power. We might have that power more than Donald Trump has. In fact, I know we do. Please sign it and share it. Please. Please, I beg of you. Please. Thank you.